Hi, this is Moby. Welcome to The Fire Show. Hello, welcome to The Fire Show, Austin's podcast about entrepreneurship, business strategy, and working your face off. This is your host, Moby. I interview the best people in Austin, from the mayor to director of South by Southwest, designer of the airport, Austin Woman Entrepreneur of the Year, and more. It's a great damn time. Today, I'm sitting down with Claire Winslow, president of Best Practice Media, a social media marketing agency focused on helping their clients make more revenue. She's the one who brought Social Media Week to Austin for the second time this year, where I interviewed some people that you actually have listened to on the podcast, such as Meredith Rose, and a few more people from Bumble and Crocs that you will listen to soon. She's also very involved in the marketing ecosystem in Austin and the US, so if you're in those circles, you know who Claire is. Today, with Claire, we're talking about social media from a strategic perspective. I mean, we can all tweet and make ads and sponsor posts, but marketing is an investment. It takes time, effort, manpower, money, resources. How do we make the most of this investment and decide what's best for a business, what direction is best for our business before we just start tweeting stuff? Let's find out. This was filmed at the startup studio at Galvanize with the help of Kevin Chin from Media Tech Ventures, a media and technology advisory firm. They launched their education platform and incubator very recently, by the way, which you can check out at collective.mediatech.ventures. If you're in the creative and tech communities in Austin and you either want to learn from the best, or you want to teach others, or you want to work on your media technology idea, I'd recommend checking them out at collective.mediatech.ventures. Lastly, you can get in touch with Claire on LinkedIn as Claire Winslow, and on Twitter as @ClaireWinslow, or on bestpracticemedia.com. Ladies and gents, enjoy, and if you've been enjoying the show, leave a review, tell me how you feel about things, and let's chat. Oh, and if you need something, I can always be reached at moby@thefireshow.com. Hi, Claire.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Are you back from another conference? I feel that if I say that any time of the year, that'd be true.
No, honestly, this is a really crazy month or so for me because obviously we did Social Media Week, and then the day after that, I flew to San Diego for Social Media Marketing World, and then flew home, obviously, in time for South by. So It's a lot.
How many conferences do you go in a year?
Unfortunately, all the conferences that I want to go to are like packed into 1 month typically. Oh. But because we produce Social Media Week here, I am planning on going to some other Social Media Weeks. So I'm probably going to go to Social Media Week New York in April. Okay. And then Social Media Week LA in June. Oof. And then we'll see from there.
It sounds like a good life.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
Yeah. So what all are you working on? Best Practice Media, Social Media Week Austin.
Yes.
Anything else that I should know about?
Yeah. Well, so, obviously Social Media Week is kind of an outlier for us. We start working on that and programming that out in about October of every year. But year round, we're a social media marketing agency serving small to medium-sized businesses. We build out their strategies, and we also execute those strategies for them.
I was at Social Media Week this time. It was great.
You were, I know.
Yeah, thank you for letting us podcast.
I'm so glad. It sounds like you got some really good interviews. So.
They did. Very tactical stuff.
That's perfect.
Yeah. There's a lot of motivational stuff out there, which is great. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I love you, Gary. You're my show. But sometimes you got to be specific and say, this is what you do.
I agree. And we've done Social Media Week for a couple of years now, and we've noticed that people really want to go to workshops and tactical, lessons and master classes. We have General Assembly as a partner, and we didn't realize that our first year, and we were booking these famous people to be on the main stage, but they were maybe doing a panel or something that was a little bit more nebulous than, an actionable workshop, and people were bailing on that to go to our smaller General Assembly workshops. So this year we kind of restructured so that it would be more tactical, and notice that Austin as a whole, as a city, really wants that tactical content.
Yeah, because social media, a lot of people can say they're very good at social media, but until they go and start teaching it and show that this is my process and it's not BS, you can't really tell.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like the industry is crowded with a lot of content creators, and content creators are awesome. We need them, and we have them on our team. But I think social media is so much more mathematic and scientific than that, and that's where I feel like it's a crowded market, but not so much on the science and data side of things.
The technical, the hard, the things that
the
you have
things
to
that
do
no
at
one
3
wants
a.m.
to do. Yeah. I love that stuff, and I'm not very creative myself, but I'd much rather be, in the back end of Facebook than the front of it.
When was the first time you thought, I'm going to start an agency?
So my founding story, my mother was a cosmetic dentist, and I was in grad school at UT. I got my MBA from McCombs.
I'm in grad school at UT right now.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, did we talk about this?
Maybe. I'm doing the weekend program.
Yeah, the MSTC.
Yes, exactly.
Right. I almost tacked that on, but I think there was too much overlap.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. But I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. So I got mine in 2010. And at the time, my mother, my cosmetic dentist mother, let me know that she had spent $100,000 on a 12-month contract with a luxury magazine in Houston. And that, as a grad student, seemed like an insane amount of money for me, especially for traditional marketing. So I asked her if it had worked, if it brought her new clients, because that's the end goal of marketing, right? And she said two things that sort of scared me. One was, I don't think so. The other one was, I don't know. So when it comes to traditional marketing, it's very expensive. There's a really high barrier to entry, and she didn't even know if clients came out of it. So that's just an insane amount of money to kind of throw away. And that's why I really like social media, because of how trackable it is. I mean, you can do things with $100,000, but you can also do things with $5. So the fact that it's more accessible. So I kind of sat on that feeling for a while. I was in experiential marketing at the time, and then started the agency in 2015 and have never looked back.
It's a good name, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's not so good for SEO. It took me about a year to rank for my own name, because there are a lot of articles that have been written about best practices in media, but we're good now.
So how did you transition from, you did a 2-year MBA?
3. So I went at night while I had a full-time job. Yeah.
How did that, I'm curious, this is not a social media question, but how did that must have been quite an interesting combination of social media, tactical stuff, and you learning that, and also given very hardcore business skills.
Well, in 2010, social media was not part of what we learned. Everything that I've learned about digital marketing and social has been since then. I like to tell the story that we had a lot of marketing classes, and we had one module within one marketing class that talked about digital marketing and social media. And that's kind of where we were as a landscape in 2010. So it's growing at a fast and furious clip. There's actually a show that I watch every Friday at noon, put on by the same people who do Social Media Marketing World, called the Social Media Examiner. And literally for an hour, the whole show is just things that have changed in the landscape of social media in the past 7 days. Oof. And they go through platform by platform and kind of say, like, in the world of Snapchat, now there's this new thing. And so it's a really tough thing to keep up with on the reg. You've got to keep your pulse on it.
That's true. How else do you get your information? You listen to podcasts, videos, you go to conferences. How do you keep abreast of everything that's going on for your clients?
I read a lot, and I think that I'm... Facebook knows me very well, and so I'm very well targeted. With ads, there are a couple people that I follow very closely who are really advanced in the world of Facebook ads and things, which is one of our specialties. So John Loomer is a big kind of player in the field that does a lot of education around that. Amy Porterfield does a lot around webinars and building personal brands and drip campaigns and things like that. So there are a couple closed groups that I follow.
So it's constant learning. Social media is not just posting on Facebook 3 times a day.
No, not at all.
From a beach.
Yeah. So you had mentioned strategy, and that's one of my least favorite questions when we're starting with prospective clients, is they ask us well, how many platforms are you going to post on, and how many times a day, week, month, whatever? And that's a terrible question to me, because what it means is that they're not coming to this from a place of strategy. So typically we have to build out the strategy first, and then we're going to know, based on this dictated by the strategy, how often and what types of things and that sort of thing.
So you have the same answer as a lawyer when asked a direct question. It depends.
But it does depend.
I believe you. I believe you.
It does, but we do, because everything has to be driven from strategy. There's an end goal. If you're in e-commerce, half the time when you ask people why they're on social, they don't know the answer to that. So it's really important to say, I'm on social because I want to sell more hamburgers or whatever it is, and then building backwards from there and making sure that everything you do on social feeds that end objective.
So when you start talking about strategy with a client, how do you start with that?
So we as an agency have a process that I love, that I even recommend to people who are doing it themselves when getting started kind of in building this out wherever they are. I mean, some people are building their strategy when they're already a company, which is sort of a problem, but if that is what you're doing, then that's okay too. But just the process that we go through is a 4-step process. We start with a social audit where we take a look at, the platforms that they're on, how often they're posting, the engagement that they're getting, what they're doing maybe right, what they're doing wrong, just to kind of get a pulse on where they already exist. Unless they're launching. If they're launching, that's going to be a very thin deliverable. We'll let them know that they are not doing anything yet. And that's a real easy one to put together.
And they probably don't like that. Right? Yes, we're doing work. Okay.
Yeah, but so the second thing that we do is a competitive analysis. And when we do a competitive analysis, we look at 2 sets of competitors. One is, direct competitors. So if you're brick and mortar, then we're looking at your geo-targeted direct competitors, really people who would take business away from you. Then we also look at aspirational competitors, and those can be verticals. They don't have to necessarily be your direct competitors or in your particular market, but they're people that are just really killing it in the field, that you'd like to do more like. And that really helps us get a frame for where to, inject our clients in the market, in the landscape. From those 2 things, we build out a content strategy, which is sort of the fluffier side. What do we want things to look like? Which platform should we be on? What's our brand voice? And how are we messaging and presenting ourselves to clients across platforms? And then my favorite piece is the advertising strategy, obviously, which is more of the math side. So starting budget, what our specific objectives are, CPCs and things like that.
So I'm very curious about number 2 and number 4, because a lot of people don't do that. I was talking to someone about a video strategy, and they said they have to do a SWOT analysis for non-MBAs. That's, oh my God, can you do that?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
I'm going to get kicked out of grad school. Okay.
That's okay.
So how do you start looking at competition through social media?
So we, because we were looking at direct versus aspirational, when we look at direct, we don't start by looking at what they're doing on social. We want to know who they are first, and then we'll look at their social. So we're not looking at our direct social competitors, if you will, because we sort of see social as a tool that feeds the strategy. So you might have a direct competitor who's not doing anything on social, and that's worth noting as well. So that's a different way than we look at our aspirationals, because when we look at those, we're really looking at, okay, who in the world in this industry is really killing it on social, and how can we do something, whether it's similar or better to them. But one thing that we really love to do is ask our clients who their competitors are. One of my least favorite responses to that question is, we don't have competitors.
God, that hurts to hear that.
Because everybody has competitors. Even disruptive services like Uber, you might think doesn't have competitors, but they do. Their competitors are anything that's taking away from their market share. So a competitor is, obviously now they have competitors, but when they first launched, they didn't. But you would argue taxis, you would argue people driving themselves.
Walking.
Yeah. So everybody has competitors to something. It's just you might have to get a little bit more creative when thinking about it if you have a disruptive product or service. But yeah, it's really important. It's selfish, but we like to ask our clients who their competitors are to kind of feed our knowledge as well, so that we know where they see themselves positioned. And sometimes we go back to them and we say, actually, we came up with sort of a different set of competitors, and here's why. So maybe the way that they see themselves positioned is slightly different than the way that we do.
And they can have blinders on it. Something
Totally.
you mentioned made me think of something. Human beings are very, very good at solving problems. We're here because of that. The first pen that came out, its competition was a pencil.
Right.
Walking is a competition to Uber or something else. If you're the first person doing something in tech, everything that was done before without tech is still a competition.
Exactly. It's just a different tool or way to do the thing that you ultimately want to do.
Exactly. So let's talk about the stuff that you like about
the
number 4.
strategy,
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I were to come and say, hey, I'm getting into advertising, what kind of tracking is involved? What would you say to me?
So every platform has their own kind of native tracking. There are also tools that will aggregate across platforms depending on what your budget is. A lot of our clients don't have an enterprise level budget for tracking and analytics and insights and that sort of thing, but that's okay. I mean, Google Analytics is free, Facebook Insights are free, and we really like using native insights. It's a little bit more time consuming to combine them all, but it really gives us all the information that we need. So we're constantly, a big part of the advertising strategy. So another question that I don't like, or I do like it because I get to sort of respond in a way that frames the question in a different way, is what's a good budget to start with? Or how much should I expect to spend per month? And I don't love that question because, again, it's not coming from a place of strategy. So for me, my answer to that is, if we're spending $1 and we're making 80 cents back on that, is that a successful campaign? Well, maybe, sort of, because we're also getting the brand awareness tied to that and making most of our money back. So, in some industries, maybe that's good. But if we're spending $1 and we're making $2, every time we do that, how much money do you want to spend? And then the answer to that is infinity. How many loans can I take out? Because I want to drive this it's working. So what we typically do is we'll outline a starting budget and be very specific about what that is. And that's usually a test budget. And then we do a lot of A/B testing, and we test, various types of audiences against each other, and copy and creative, and just kind of see what resonates. And also we always, start with particular objectives and make sure that everything is tied to that objective. So if it's to grow an email list or convert, usually people want to sell, right? But there's a whole crazy process to get to the point where you have a warm enough funnel to be able to sell to them. So figuring out what that kind of nurturing looks like is just a really, really fun game and puzzle to play.
So the testing period, you mentioned two things. Number one, the budget part, which is we're going to have a test budget. Yeah. And then knowing that number, which is on $1, do we make 80 cents or $2? Right. Is the first testing period when you find that out, and then tell the client, this is what we can do if you put in more money. Yeah, so we never don't test. Never ever. I never get to a point.
Well said.
Yeah, so I never get to a point when I'm like, you know what? We've figured out Facebook, and this is what's
shut down everything else.
Yeah, and this is just going to work forever, because it's not. And even if something that's working is going to start to develop creative fatigue, and you kind of constantly have to update. But what I really like about A/B testing is, even if something doesn't work, so for us as an agency, or if you're reporting to a boss or something and you're running testing, if you're just running one ad in one ad set in one campaign, and at the end of it you have something to show for it, and your boss says, or your client says, was that good? It's really hard to say that because you have nothing to relate it to. Yeah. But if you're running an A/B test, you can say, this one didn't work and this one didn't really work, but this one worked better than this one did. Or this audience engaged more than this audience did. Yeah. And so you always have some sort of data to come back with and say, we learned something this week, or, this sprint.
And we can do more of what's good.
And we can apply that to next week. And hopefully you learn faster. But, I think you were talking earlier about how to call BS on agencies or marketers. And one of the ways is, if they say that they come to this new agency and they know what they're doing and they know how to do it and they figured it out already. There needs to be a lot of humility in marketing, where you say, we're really intelligent and we are going to do our best, but we're never going to stop testing. And so to you, that might seem like we don't know what we're doing, but it's because we need to be always learning about our consumers.
Because the market always changes.
Yes. And so there's no cockiness to be had in marketing. You really have to just be willing to continue to learn about your consumers and how they prefer to listen and hear content.
So for A/B testing, you mentioned that a lot. Is there a minimum amount of money I need to put into A/B test?
No.
I know that's a broad question.
No, I mean, you can run an A/B test with $5 versus $5. We have clients where an A/B test doesn't mean 2, it can mean 8. And we have clients where we're running $100 a day for each of those 8, let's say, audiences or something, and kind of seeing who converts best. So there's no minimum budget, there's no maximum budget. It just needs to make sense for you. So for one of my clients, we spend unless we're outspending our return. I mean, so we're constantly ramping to sell tickets. And really we have a cutoff point where at a certain point they're like, this isn't working anymore, we're spending too much. But until we hit that point, we just really want to max it out.
Yeah. So you've talked about very tactical things and your process. What if we take a step back and say, okay, what happens when Instagram starts ranking videos higher or Facebook? Do you have regular check-ins with your clients and say, we're going to make a major shift in your strategy very soon?
We make major shifts based on the major shifts in the platform. So for instance, on January 11th, Facebook made a really big announcement that they were majorly changing the algorithm. In the past, so in my keynote speech at Social Media Week, I had all these slides that looked like they were this announcement, but they were from 2015 and 2016. But the verbiage that was used in Facebook's blog back then was, you may see a decrease in organic reach. You might be impacted by this. And the language that they used on January 11th, 2018, was your pages will see a decrease in organic.
Further decrease, yeah.
And this is really going to impact brands and pages and publishers. So we immediately got some calls from some of our clients and said, do we have to be really worried? Is this even the platform we should be on anymore? And so we turned on our out-of-office replies. We let everyone know that we were going to do this. And then we strategized and we looked at every single one of our clients and said, okay, is there anything that we need to shift or update? And so for some of our clients, like you mentioned, video, obviously live video is ranked over recorded video is ranked over picture content. So which of our clients need to go live more often? For another one of our clients, we decided to put a renewed interest into Facebook groups, because Facebook is now and has been for a while, really focused on creating communities and building communities rather than talking at an audience.
Yes.
So for some of our clients, it makes sense to move into the group arena and start engaging with our communities in that way. So we came out of that, and some of our clients didn't shift that much, or maybe they don't have a big presence on Facebook, and so really it's just letting them know, hey, as it has been a trend for a really long time, it's just more and more pay to play, and organic is, we're not relying on that as much. But for other clients, we really did have to make some major shifts.
What advice would you give, even if it's very harsh, to people just getting into social media? Not that they want to say, I'm going to start an agency, but they're like, I want to go freelance and just start getting into helping people with their social media. And be harsh.
Yeah, well, so I what I said earlier about content creation, that's where I think there are a lot of players in the field, and they feel like, oh, I've got a good eye, or I'm a good writer with good grammar. And that's really, really important. And that is something that you cannot teach. So I love to hire people who have a good eye and good grammar. But what's really important is being able to see the overall strategy. And that, like I said, is where I feel like a lot of people maybe fall short, is how is social media a tool that fits under an overall umbrella of digital marketing and then marketing in general? How does that relate to sales? How does that, for our clients, it's not just about, like you said, posting 3 times a day or week or whatever on certain platforms, because I feel like almost anyone can do that. Yeah. It has to be looked at from a really data-heavy place. And honestly, the shift on the 11th freaked a lot of people out, and I think it freaked out the people that don't know what they're doing. But it didn't freak us out, because we do feel like we know what we're doing, and I feel like our market, social media agencies, if you will, and freelancers and all this, might get a little bit smaller, at least right now, until people really step up to the plate and start investing in learning the back end of social and the more analytical side.
Because that part has higher barriers of entry.
I think so. Yeah, and content is still king, right? Like, no matter what you're doing on the ad side, if your content sucks, then
no one wants to watch that.
No, yeah, it has to be compelling, and I'm not saying that one is more important than the other. I am saying that I think a lot of people put all their eggs in the content basket without maybe even understanding the other side.
Yeah, it's not just about tweeting. I heard this advice, tweet 64 times a day, and I was like, okay. But why?
Yeah, well, and if you do that and nothing gets engaged with, then what is the point? Yeah. Right. Like, tweet what 64 times a day?
Yeah. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah, no.
So what are some resources that people can go to, your blog or somewhere else, they can learn more about this?
Yeah, so we are, and Courtney on my team keeps telling people that we're going to do this. We are going to probably launch a group for, because we get a lot of people who would love to work with us but maybe don't have the budgets to do that, or want more kind of training and consulting than they want like full-blown strategy and execution. So we're working on building out that program, but in the meantime, like I mentioned, Jon Loomer's kind of my favorite in the Facebook world. Every platform has their kind of industry standout. So Instagram, there's a woman named Subi Zimmerman who does a lot in that space. Facebook and Twitter. Twitter has Twitter Flight School, that's free. Facebook has Facebook Blueprint, that's free. And those are meant for small businesses, but they also work for agencies or for freelancers too, to make sure that you, I mean, how do I set up Business Manager? What's the difference between Ads Manager and Power Editor, although Power Editor is going away now. But little things like that that are really tactical that I think before you're offering this as a service to other people, that you need to make sure that you understand.
Like go on YouTube. Watch 60 hours.
For sure. There's a ton of free resources available platform by platform. The platforms really want you to be able to know how to use them effectively. So it's in their best interest to set up these really robust trainings for people to do it well, because they want you to come back and they want you to say, Facebook ads worked for me in my small business or me and my clients, and so I'm going to do them again. And because of that, the free trainings that they have are really valuable. And then once you get to a certain level where you've exhausted that, going into some of these more, monthly subscription type closed groups and things where you can just, and I like those not so much for their trainings anymore, but for little random one-off questions where you do something and it doesn't reflect and you want to know, is this a kink? Like, is anyone else seeing this in the back end of a certain platform? And that can be super helpful sometimes, because if someone else is seeing the same kink, then okay, I'll just wait a day and I'm not going to spend 10 hours trying to figure this out. This is just something that's going to get worked
You're learning
out.
from other people in real time.
Totally.
How do people find you on social media?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have 40?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite way to connect with people, especially like after conferences, I feel like I always get a lot of Facebook friend requests, and I never know how to deal with those. So I prefer LinkedIn for just like totally cold connection, and so that I'd say would be the best way. So it's Claire Winslow on LinkedIn.
And Twitter?
Twitter, I'm super inactive on Twitter. But our company is very active on Twitter, and that's Best Practice SMM, which is social media marketing.
Okay. Sounds
is
good.
our handle there.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good.
Damn.
It was fun.
Damn.
Thank you.
Yeah.